About America and just old school common sense. It's not about left or right. He called a lid at 10 a.m. today. It's more about right or wrong. It's about cutting through the noise and finding the truth. It's uncomfortable talking about all of this stuff, finding things we have in common, not what divides us. It's about we the people. We do news, we do sports, we do entertainment. And we have a damn good time in the process. It is Monday. I'm Drew Berquist. This is my show. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Tom Disco talking to you as well. I do still care about you. Tom, how was your weekend?
It was a stellar weekend. Enjoyed a lot of football games, even though some of the games didn't go my way. But, man, that Georgia-Alabama game, holy shnikes.
Yes. No, we're going to talk about that one because that was delightful. It lived up to didn't look like it was going to at one point, but then it just lived up to everything we all hoped and dreamed it would be. It was a great football weekend. Disco got a win for his Bears, so good for you, buddy.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was still a tough game to watch, but then your game was incredible to watch.
That was really something.
It was like, oh, we got this. Oh no, we don't.
I had two of those. Two of those games this weekend where my team on Saturday and Sunday was curb stomping the piss out of our opponent until halftime. And then the second half just decided not to come out of the locker room, which was fun. It's always fun. But listen, hopefully you folks, particularly folks in the Southeast, we're in the Southeast here. Crazy wind from the storm last week when it came through, but nothing like what everyone else is experiencing. I mean, it was wild winds. You'd think the storm was here. This thing was 300 miles wide. This thing was a beast. Still is wreaking havoc with the aftermath of everything. But what's wild is you tend to think with hurricanes, even us, people in the other parts of the country are like, what's a hurricane? Because they've never had to really deal with it. But even us here, you tend to kind of think of, okay, where is the storm coming ashore? Where's the point of impact? And you're terrified and concerned for those people, their property, and all of that. And that should be true and is true. And it did crush parts of Florida. But rarely do people think, and I'm not saying you don't, but rarely do most think, oh, this is going to wreak havoc working its way up over land as it goes up through the United States, because you think, hey, it's weakening down to a tropical storm and yada, yada, yada. Well, this thing, man, death toll nearing 100 over, depending on the source you're looking at. And what it has done to the Carolinas and parts of Tennessee is just beyond words. It's tragic. I mean, you see the flooding in North Carolina getting a lot of the attention right now. It's not to say that there aren't communities in Georgia and Tennessee that are also just being destroyed. But let's listen to this. You have the French Broad River, which overflowed. It flooded. And we've got several clips. But this is one clip about Asheville and other parts. in the surrounding area of North Carolina. It's a local news clip. We'll listen to it, watch it, and then we'll discuss.
An unfolding catastrophe in Asheville, North Carolina. Homes and buildings swept away by raging floodwaters that have submerged the town.
It's beyond anything I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Parts of the town not underwater, completely cut off.
Somebody on a Facebook post said something about having to fly out of Asheville because you can't drive out of Asheville.
That extreme.
Yeah.
With no power and no cell service, crowds formed outside this hotel, one of the only places in town with working Wi-Fi.
We've been just trying to get on as much as we can and either get an email or a text out and just let everybody know that we're okay.
We met up with Cindy Tran, her forever home, a self-described oasis, ravaged by the cresting French Broad River nearby.
The water came up so quick, halfway up to the second floor. We thought the way it just kept rising so fast, it was going to get to the second floor, so we had to get out.
A similar scene in the town of Chimney Rock, virtually wiped off the map by floodwaters.
Chimney Rock's gone. Flying Bridge is gone.
Meanwhile, the heavy rains triggering a massive mudslide that washed out this stretch of I-40, a major highway connecting western and eastern parts of the state. One bit of good news, two dams that were in danger of collapse, the Nolichucky and Lake Lure dams, now appear to be okay as water levels slowly recede. Helene's flooding rains bringing devastation to Tennessee as well. In Irwin, the scene of this dramatic rescue. Patients and staff rushing to the roof as floodwaters engulf the Unicoi County Hospital. Boats and helicopters converging to quickly get them to safety.
I was very concerned that we was going to lose the hospital.
In South Carolina, crews dug this tree off a car. Strong winds leaving more than 1 million people there without power. Back in Asheville, residents resorting to kayaks to get around flooded streets as they figure out how to move forward.
Are you okay?
I will be. Every now and then. I was fine yesterday, believe it or not, but now, like today, things have been settling in and I just can't stop crying.
Although the water has started to recede, the damage is already done. And with more potential rain in the forecast, people here just don't know how much more they can take.
So absolutely insane. So sad. So tragic. You have a city, a known city, a great city. Asheville's an amazing city. Great people there. Who's dealing with all of this? So much loss. Most of it, there's been loss of life, yes, but there's been loss of property and belongings, which of course can be replaced, but it's not fun nonetheless. So you hate seeing people go through this. But you've got this video here. I don't remember which order they're in, but here's one of Chimney Rock in North Carolina, which if you've been through or stopped and had lunch in, you know, and if you don't, then you'll see some other pictures here in a moment. But take a look at Chimney Rock. All right, so for the sake of the audio podcasters, because we're still in the Blue Room one more day, hopefully back on the main set tomorrow, but I can't speak over the audio clips in this setup that we're using to get the show out to you today. But so you saw just everything flooded, overfilled, and you saw debris from all of the structures and property that had been just brushed in there. I mean, it just was insane.
It looked like a logging facility while the logs come down the river.
Right.
You know? That's what it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, you could not see the water. It was that much debris. It wasn't like a part of a house here, a part of a house there. It was just wood and chaos everywhere. But look at this. This is, we've got a before and after. So here's a before picture of Chimney Rock. Cute little town, cute little street. And then the flooding comes. And here's that same street, different angle, I think, but same street. This is a video, so I can't talk over it, but you can hear the commentary. Take a listen. I mean, that is insane. Insane. That whole part just gone. Didn't exist.
Right. I'm really familiar with that area of North Carolina. I went to college at Brevard College, which is about 40 minutes from Asheville. And Brevard's been devastated as well. And I remember driving through Chimney Rock and all these places that we're seeing now on the news that have just been wiped pretty much off the map. And it's hard for me to fathom. And I'm sure for the residents there, like that one poor lady was talking about how she's just kind of like, in a state of like suspended animation, not knowing what's
Yeah.
going on, and then getting emotional about when she thinks of the toll that's happened. I was reading a report today that in Asheville they're expecting weeks. 100,000 residents. It's going to take up to 2 weeks before they can restore any kind of drinking water or any kind of water system to them.
Yeah. No, it's just it's astonishing how quick a town can literally be wiped off the map. Not destroyed or hurt, but in the case of like Chimney Rock and some others, just essentially gone. And it's astonishing in a place like Asheville, which is a great, beautiful, well-to-do community, how you can go from first world to third world in an instant, which is the conditions that they're going to have over these next several weeks. And then even after that, as the recovery process takes place. So just insane. I can't get over how just wild the scenes are. And again, it is just stuff, but man, you don't want to have to that is awful.
Well, and especially to think about the infrastructure of how Asheville and Chimney Rock are not practiced in storms like this to come in and do devastation like this. In Florida, all the beach towns, they know kind of like the residents of these residents thought they were fine. It'll be okay. And now they're thrusted into this.
Yeah.
It's just, prayers out to them because they're going to be a rude awakening for them the next week, 2 weeks of all this.
Well, what I'm afraid is going to happen is the same thing that's going to happen with East Palestine and Lahaina. It's just going to go away. It's going to be memory hold. The government, the Biden-Harris administration, is going to drop the ball, and those people are going to be screwed.
Yeah. Sadly, I think that there's a much higher probability that is the case than something significant is done. The silver lining in all of this, we're about to show some clips and a picture actually of the Biden administration's response, but the silver lining is you have, and someone tweeted this out. We've all shared similar sentiments, and I don't remember who tweeted this out, but basically the thought and the truth. I mean, the actions that are being taken by private companies, privately held companies, to go out and do things, whether it's Starlink, whether it's whoever, people responding and helping a lot more than the government is, which is not surprising. But that's how things are supposed to work. You just do. And if you've operated like a business, which the government never has, and wouldn't even know where to start, it would look different. But Biden said, and I think, look, to be honest, well, let's play this clip. Biden was asked about it on the tarmac. He looks terrible. I'm not trying to say that to be mean. He just does. He looks like this could be his last flight. But take a listen to what he said.
Yes, it's tragic. As a matter of fact, we're trying to get the exact number. My FEMA advisor is on the ground in Florida right now. There's a distinction between the numbers that FEMA's used and the ones that are used by the locals. So it really is amazing. You saw the photographs. It's stunning.
It's unbelievable.
It really is.
Such a wide area.
And we've given them all everything that we have. We're on the ground ahead of time, so we're working hard.
Are there any more resources the federal government could be giving them?
No, we've given them, we have pre-planned a significant amount of it, even though they didn't ask for it yet. Hadn't asked for it yet.
All right, so some will say, well, they gave them aid, though. They're just saying that they've already given it all to them in advance. I'll say that's bullshit. And first of all, he's talking in most of it there about Florida, but then it's talked about one of the reporters talks about how wide this thing was, 300 miles wide. I mean, the path of destruction from this thing was like we haven't seen much like it. I don't want to say we've never seen it, but we haven't seen much like it. And to just say, oh, no, they're not getting any more money. We've given them what they need. They didn't even have to ask for it. They're trying to make themselves seem like they're on top of it and doing well, but it's really the opposite that is true. And we know that because historically, this is how we've done it as a government. Is it's not enough. They're going to say they are. They're going to say on the campaign trail how they are, and from the White House how they are. But the best way to see is to always ask the people in the Cedar Key area of Florida. Ask the people in Asheville and Chimney Rock and some of these towns in Tennessee and Georgia. Ask them. They'll let you know if they're getting enough. And I guarantee you the answer is no.
No, it's not, and it's all by design. The globalist government that we have now, with Biden and Harris, and the goals that they have for our country to be part of this world governing body, this is par for the course. It's screw your own residents because they don't matter. It's the citizens of the world. It's all the new cultural enrichers that we've let join into the country and give them the right to vote and give them money from our tax dollars, and the citizens who have been here since birth, to hell with them. That's the message that's going out from the Biden administration. And look what they did to the poor folks in Lahaina. They gave them $600 and said, go screw yourself.
Yeah.
This is going to be the same kind of response that we're going to see. And the more that people wake up and realize that the Biden-Harris administration, the Democrat elites, the Mark Cubans of the world hate your guts and they want you dead. And this is another example. This delayed response by the federal government is another example of how they don't care about their own citizens.
Yeah. Well, I think this next picture is a perfect example of that very thing as well, because you've got Joe who's saying they're doing stuff even though they're not. And didn't he looked terrible, by the way. He just did. But you've got that, and then you've got Cam, who of course is campaigning. She's out there trying to run, and I tell you, seeing I'm not ready for this next month. The onslaught of commercials from both sides, frankly, but particularly from her.
It felt overboard yesterday.
Oh
during
my
football.
gosh, it was so much. My kids were like, "Do we have to do this the whole next month?" Like, yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, so kiddos, but she's out there campaigning. She, who by the way, not there, hasn't gone to check in. She had to go. Her staff. This is the perfect picture of a politician in America today, particularly a Democrat one. I'd say it's all of them, but wants to have this. I'm campaigning. I'm tired. I'm working. I mean, all of her commercials say I'm working for the American people, which is the most hilarious thing I've ever heard. Show me an example of that. Except for criminals. I mean, she's done her fair share for them. I'll give her credit there. And the illegals that she's brought in. More on that later.
Tom said that she's spent a lot of time on her knees,
Yes. She had. But man, I'm telling you, so she puts out this photo from from Air Force 2. There's different angles of it. This is the cropped one. But this right here, folks. What do you see? What do the average person who's not paying that much attention see? They see someone who looks like she's paying attention, taking notes, listening to a phone call, and is tired because she's working tirelessly for the American people. But people who look a little bit closer and who know how all of this in DC is just a big load of shit, and that none of these politicians like their constituents, this country, or Americans writ large, you'll actually see that the papers in front of her are all blank, and that the headset that she's listening to the call on is not plugged into the phone. I mean, this right here is a perfect picture of how these, for all the trolls in the chat rooms right now saying, well, Trump this, Trump that, stop it. You've heard me say multiple times in the last minutes, all of these people, I think Trump did a way better job than most. And I will be voting for Trump in this election because Kamala is the worst candidate in the history of the United States. But all of these people, they do these photo ops. It's the whole game. So much of our life and so much of what we consume is just pure and utter bullshit. It's all propaganda.
Yeah.
this is where we are. That's exactly where we are.
You would hope that the people who are in charge of doing the propaganda would be a little bit better at their job and be more on their A game. We saw the raw hamburger meat with the cheese on it with Chuck Schumer,
Yes.
and instead, it having blank pages in front of you and the earbud not plugged in. That's just laziness. And if you're going to be propaganda, I expect a lot more out of you. And it's really sad that there are people who actually think that Carmelo is actually like not this vacuous empty-headed mannequin that the rest of us know that she is. In that voice, I'm working so hard for the American people. That vocal fry, I don't it her voice is just so mind-numbingly irritating. And when, like you said, when those commercials come on during football games, it's just, I feel like I'm a prisoner being tortured in some rendition facility in Egypt.
Well, in some sense of the way you are. But let's move on. We got a lot we're going to get into today, folks. We're going to take a quick detour. We're going to talk college football. And some of you are like, oh, I don't want to talk football. Don't worry. It's going to be real quick. Then we're right back to the news because Kamala is struggling with men in terms of polling, probably in other ways too. She's married to Doug Emhoff. A new immigration report for her. And I don't know how anything about the Biden-Harris administration doesn't sink them and a possible Harris presidency. But this new report, holy crap, super damning. We're going to talk about that. Things were spicier, we should say, than normal in the Middle East over the weekend. And then we'll finish the show circling back to some more football and just talking briefly about what went on in the NFL games this weekend. But for now, let's get into the college football report. Let's do it. And I kind of lied too, actually, because we're going to kind of work in politics right here, because here was Trump walking on one of the concourses there at Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and the crowd was pretty damn happy to see him. Trump there for the Alabama-Georgia game. Take a look. So they were excited to see him. He was there. Herschel Walker, Kid Rock, several other people with him in the booth. Clay Travis interviewed him at halftime, did a good job. That was a good one. If you didn't get to see it, give it a gander. But the game inside the stadium, the game was outstanding. It was the game we all asked for and got. Started off rough. You go into halftime. Georgia finishes the first half getting a safety on an intentional grounding call. And it's 30-7, and you're like, well, this isn't going so well for Georgia. This isn't going well for all of us because we all wanted it to be a tight game, unless you're a diehard Crimson Tide fan. But even then, you want it to be a little closer, right? But then the second half came. Georgia rallies to come back. They don't win. Bama still won 41-34, but what a hell of a rally. And, man, Ryan Williams, the young receiver for Alabama, holy crap, the kid is good. Jalen Milroe played really, really well. It just was a fun game, came down to the end, and the atmosphere always ridiculous and super, super awesome over the top at Bryant-Denny Stadium down there. I loved it. Tom, did you enjoy it as much as I did?
That I thoroughly enjoyed the game, and that Ryan Williams kid, holy smokes, the touchdown that he made, he catches the ball and then he stops and
Yeah.
then starts up again, and the two Georgia defenders run into each other. The kid was 177 yards in the game-winning touchdown. For a 17-year-old, just absolutely a remarkable performance by that kid.
Yeah. No, I there he had a couple other plays. That one obviously massive, game-changing. But there's a couple other plays where he just did amazing catch, amazing yards after the catch. You just like, wow. And then, as you said, 17 years old. My God. Kalen DeVore is doing a good job in Alabama. They to little preview, we'll show the poll later. They jumped up to number 1 as they deserved with their performance against a really, really good football team in Georgia.
I think it's safe to say that Alabama has their NIL dialed in.
Yeah. No, they're Alabama, man. They're just ripping and roaring as usual, has not stopped since Saban retired. I have no worries. If I'm an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, I didn't have any worries about him before. You certainly don't now. You certainly don't now. There's almost no way they don't make the college football play. They could. They have some tough games still. But man, they've set themselves up very well, and they looked really, really good. Speaking of looking good, or in this case, not looking good, Michigan, Minnesota was this weekend. Battle for the Little Brown Jug. Oldest brother played in Minnesota, grew up in Minnesota. I like the Gophers. Of course, wanted Michigan to win, with Michigan being my team. And it was a super sloppy win for the Wolverines. Dominated the first half. Again, I had 2 games like this weekend. Wolverines up 21-3 at halftime, just stifling defense, doing the work. Offense actually kind of getting some things moving, which has not really happened much this year. And then the second half just played like dog shit. The Gophers did play better. Credit to the Gophers. The game ended on some onside kick drama. Gophers go down, score, get a chance to kick an onside kick. They get it, and it's called back because he was offsides. Looking at it, he really wasn't offsides. Here's the thing, though. He wasn't offsides, but one of the Gophers players, the ball hit the shin before 10 yards. They didn't even talk about that, but if you go back and look at it, hits the shin right before, like at 9.5 yards. Obviously, the kicking team can't make contact for 10 yards. That sends it launching down the field, and then one of the Gophers who's hauling ass gets on top of it. Anyways, it all got called back. It was a sloppy game all around. But also super, super, super wet, super rainy conditions. Wasn't impressed with how either team really played, but a win's a win. Kentucky took Georgia to the limit weeks back, lost by 1 point, 13-12. And Mark Stoops says the Cats playing great football. They're 3-2 overall. So you think they're 3-2. Like, they're not even really contending for the SEC championship. They're not so fast, my friend. Again, 1 point loss to Georgia, and their other loss to a 3-1 South Carolina team who's playing pretty good football. So this Kentucky team is looking good. I tell you what, if they're next on your schedule, you're like, well, shit, we don't.
Absolutely. Kentucky's been my sleeper team of the year. I didn't think much of them, but after that Georgia game, I was like, holy smokes, what's Mark Stoops up to? And then this victory against Ole Miss, it's like, okay, we might be onto something here. This might be the sleeper team of 2024 and the spoiler for some schools that they have coming up on their schedule.
Yeah, I love it. I love Kentucky's uniforms, just the simple blue and white. Love everything they got going on. They're being coached super, super well. So let's see. We'll see. I'm sure we'll keep talking about them, but hell of a win for those guys. And then last game we're going to touch on, and then we're going to get back into we're going to touch on the poll, and then we'll get into news. But Friday night, this game right here. Wow. Virginia Tech goes into Miami on the road playing the 7th ranked at the time Hurricanes. And this thing came down to the wire, and I think Virginia Tech got screwed. And I'm not saying I wanted I love both these programs. I like it when both these programs are good. I think it's good for the ACC. I think it's good for college football. They're both wearing kind of their traditional uniforms Friday night. I just was a happy camper. I'm sitting there sipping on some bourbon, watching good ball. It was a good back and forth game. Cam Ward played outstanding again for Miami. 24 of 38, 343 yards, 4 tutties. He did throw 2 picks, but a great night for him. Virginia Tech, though, gets a shot at the end. They're inside the 50. I forget the exact yard line, but call it the 40, 45-yard line of Miami. Heave it into the end zone, and and the Virginia Tech dude comes down with it, lands his butt in the end zone, and then the ball gets ripped apart or ripped away. Everyone in Miami thinks it's a it's an incompletion. The light show starts, everyone's celebrating, and then the refs consult with each other, call it a touchdown. All of a sudden, the mood changes quite a bit, and it looks like Virginia Tech's won. Then they review it, and what looked very complex, not an easy call, but they called it a touchdown on the field, looked very hard to overturn, and they overturned it, and the Hurricanes won. Wild finish. Did you see that play, Tom?
I did see that play, and I agree with you. Virginia Tech got screwed. That was clearly a touchdown.
Yeah.
And this also reinforces my theory and my want to eliminate all referees from college and pro football. I think with the advent of AI and the multiple cameras that we have, that the elimination of referees, umpires, and everybody who calls balls, strikes, penalties, touchdowns, no touchdowns should be eliminated.
Okay, that's quite an interesting model. But we're probably going towards something similar, if we're being honest. It was wild. And again, was it a clear catch? No. Did it look more like a catch than a drop? Yes. Did they call it a catch and a touchdown? Yes. Does it have to be overwhelmingly clear to overturn it? Yes, and it was not, and yet they did. So, interesting call. Good win for the Canes. You know, a win's a win, right? Let's look at the new poll. The AP poll came out Sunday. Alabama, as I said before, jumped up to number 1. Texas, Ohio State 2, 3, Tennessee 4. Georgia dropped to 5, which I think is reasonable that they're absolutely still a top 5 team. Tom's favorite, Oregon, jumped up to 6. Penn State 7. Miami dropped to 8 with the win. A slight move back. Mizzou still at 9. Michigan jumped from 12 up to 10 with a sloppy win over Minnesota. I disagree with that as much as I love me some Wolverine football. USC 11, Ole Miss 12 after their loss. They dropped from 6 to 12. LSU 13, Notre Dame 14 after their win over Louisville. Clemson 15, Iowa State 16. Matt Campbell, by the way, congrats, became the winningest coach in Iowa State history. Done a hell of a job there in Ames, Iowa. BYU 17, Utah 18. Look at Utah just taking over those spots right next to each other. Oklahoma 19, K-State 20, Boise State 21. Louisville drops to 22 with their loss. Indiana, who's 5-0, the Hoosiers, number 23. Illinois 24, and then UNLV, despite all of their drama, is number 25. So you don't like Oregon at 6. What other comments do you have, Tom? I know your first comment.
No, I agree. Alabama, after that win on Saturday night, I thought Texas was going to be the team to beat, but man, oh man, Alabama just looks on fire at this point, and it's going to take some kind of a meltdown for anybody to knock them out of that number 1 spot. I do like the fact that UNLV has cracked the top 25 after the Sulker. It's so hard to pronounce that kid's name. Sluka. Yeah, after him leaving. It's nice to see them get a win coming, after the controversy that was going on with his departure. I am surprised at Utah. I might have to rethink this football west of Austin, Texas now.
I tell you, Utah, they've got a hell of a football program. They've done really, really well. Obviously, BYU steeped in tradition over the years. They kind of come and go, but Utah over the last couple decades has just always been consistently good. So good for the Utes. Yeah, I think it's good.
Do you like the jump for Boise? Because they were 25 last week, right? Now they're up to 21.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I think that, keeping Boise and teams like UNLV, who's they're both kind of battling for the first group of 5 spot in the playoff if one gets one at all. I think that they're okay in that range. I don't think that they deserve to go a whole lot higher. I think that 1 and 2 are just absolute locks. I mean, they both have the most impressive wins of the year: Alabama over Georgia, Texas over Michigan, convincingly over Michigan. I'm okay with most of this poll here. I think it's wild to see Indiana in there. That's a weird thing. And we're not. This is not a basketball poll, by the way, folks. They're like, yeah, Indiana's great at basketball sometimes, but no, this is football. So interesting. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. It's going to be a great week. We'll talk later in the week about the games coming up this week. For now, though, let's talk about some more news, and then we'll get into some more NFL stuff later. But we got lots more news stories. It was pretty busy in Lebanon this weekend. It has been as of late. Everything continuing to ramp up overseas on a lot of fronts. But when it comes to the Israel-Hamas and Israel-Iran conflict, which of course expands throughout the region given their proxies there, it was particularly spicy where Hezbollah leadership was located this weekend. Here was the scene at their headquarters in Lebanon. Take a look. All right, so that is Hezbollah headquarters, where bunker busters and a number of other munitions were delivered by Israel. And you had Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, killed in the strike, as well as all of the other leadership. It was so funny. Khamenei, in Iran, put out a tweet saying Hezbollah leadership, something like Hezbollah leadership is still strong. And Twitter fact-checked it or added reader comments. The entire Hezbollah leadership was killed, which I thought was pretty funny. At any rate, you've got Netanyahu in London going hard to the hoop. Significant win there. You've got there were strikes in Yemen this weekend against the Houthis and Iran proxies there. So things heating up. Good that bad guys are dying. Bad that things are not slowing down at all over there. And as we get closer and closer to this election, we get closer and closer to both of the wars that we're heavily involved in expanding much, much further.
Yeah, they're definitely, it is expanding. I mean, you see the Houthis, it's pretty much on a daily basis that they're launching drone strikes against our Navy ships. And I don't like this conflict. It keeps getting bigger and bigger, and I'm afraid it's going to get out of control, and we're going to get pulled into it at some point.
Yes, and yes. I agree. Look, I'm all for supporting Israel, but I'm also not for getting involved in a huge regional war or, God forbid, world war over it. And you can see it getting to that point. Not saying it's going to, but you can see all the paths. It's like the Russia-Ukraine war. I mean, they're very different, but in terms of the trajectory that we see ourselves on, there's way more paths to more war there than there are less war. And that is the concerning part for me. Okay, real quick, we've got some more stories. We're going to talk Kamala. We're going to talk about how she's not doing well with men. And then we're going to talk about this super damning, not surprising, scary, but not surprising DHS report about the number of violent criminals that have come through our open border, thanks to the Biden-Harris administration. But before we do that, guys, you're also probably like me dealing with inflammation. Chronic inflammation is a big pain in the butt. You got aches and pains. You've got inflammation in areas that maybe don't present themselves as anything, but it's all happening beneath the surface. And our good friends at Sweetamine have created this awesome product where you get 8 grams of glycine in one packet. You can put one of these packets that they made, which are gluten-free, they are gluten-free, but they're sugar-free. There's only 24 calories, no carbs. You can put it right in your drink. You can put it in a recovery shake or recovery drink, your coffee, whatever you want to mix it in with. And it gives you 8 grams of glycine, which is enough to fight inflammation and either drastically slow or stop it right in its tracks. So check it out. It's sweetamine.com. You can try it risk-free because it's for a trial pack. It's $19.95. You can use promo code Drew, which will get you $5 off. So just $14.95, you get a trial pack, and you can get on the right path here and start fighting that inflammation. It's free shipping, completely risk-free. You get to the end of that, you don't like it, you don't feel good, you call them, they give you your money back. I think you're going to like it. I use it. Go check it out. It's sweetamine.com. Use promo code Drew to save $5 off your first order. Okay, for time, we're going to skip the question of the day today because there's 2 more things I want to get into with Kamala, one of which is a real big deal. And then I still want to just wrap up touching on a couple NFL games. But let's do this. We've got this, I believe, is MSNBC. It's a mainstream media network. They're all the same. Doesn't really matter. Talking about how the Harris campaign is struggling with men. Take a listen.
But it's men. I mean, I think the real struggle for the Harris campaign is young men, older men, men of color, white men.
Okay. I don't know if you guys could hear that. Tom, could you hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a struggle with men. She's absolutely 100% correct. It's kind of like the Bud Light effect when they had Dylan Mulvaney. Bud Light all of a sudden became the gay beer. It's the same with supporters of Kamala Harris. Men who support Kamala Harris come across as beta cucks who have low T. And men don't want to be associated with that. Real men don't want to be associated with that. You know, we see all these trolls in here. Those are the types that support Kamala Harris that have 0 testosterone in their blood, right, and are just kind of like, I wish I was a man. Yeah, they're not dudes. Yes. And dudes, you know, or like MMA, who like college and pro football, who are just guys, are sick and tired of these creeps trying to emasculate us and calling it, toxic masculinity and all this other crap. And we've come to a point where it's like, you know what? To hell with you guys. You can be, a squeamish little spineless cuck. That's fine. Go do it. Go be with Kamala and the rest of your little bitch boys. The rest of us, not so much. We're happy about being dudes. So the rest of you can go to hell.
Yeah, no, I agree. I saw another thing. The so-called men who support Kamala are like you said, low T. To call them a beta would be a huge, huge honor to them because they're not even that. But I saw another clip with I forget who was interviewing, but it was Doug Emhoff, and once again them talking about how he's redefining what masculinity is. It's like no. Everyone run far from this. That is not true. You can tell, right? I mean, you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but sometimes you can. And you can tell by looking at Doug. And then more importantly, you can tell with the substance with Doug. It's hilarious that that's the path that they've gone down. So no, this is not surprising. And neither is this next report. So this video, I think, is like 4 minutes long, but we're going to let it run.
5.
Okay, 5. We're going to let it run. Maybe we'll come out a little bit early of it, but this is a report on all of not just the people. We know that this Biden-Harris administration has set records we don't want to set. They do, but we as a country don't want to set along the border by foregoing and ignoring our laws, by opening it up, and by bringing these people in, which they have a purpose for. They know exactly what they're doing. But when you're talking about tens upon tens of millions of illegal immigrants here, and you just know and assume when things are wide ass open that there's going to be some bad people coming through. Well, This report documents that and describes just the ones they know. Keep in mind that this is what is being told and what is known, not necessarily the full picture. But listen to the report and then we'll discuss.
Yeah, and Sandra, bear with me. We just got these numbers moments ago, but it's a jaw dropper to say the least. So to set the stage here, let me just explain what these numbers mean. ICE has something called a non-detained docket. Essentially what that is it means migrants who were encountered by DHS but are no longer in federal custody. So who's on this non-detained docket? It's illegal immigrants who were caught and released at the border, released with the court date years away. They're in immigration proceedings, combined with illegal immigrants who have already been ordered deported from the country by a judge but are still here roaming the country. So keep that in mind, this non-detained docket. According to a letter that the acting director of ICE just sent to Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez, on ICE's non-detained docket, they're currently tracking 425,000 non-citizens who have been convicted of a crime. Of that number, over 13,000 non-citizens have convictions for homicide and are on the non-detained docket, meaning they're roaming the country right now. On top of that, there are another 15,811 non-citizens convicted of sexual assault who are roaming the country right now on ICE's non-detained docket. It doesn't stop there. Those are convictions. The ICE director also says there are currently just under 1,900 non-citizens on the non-detained docket who have pending homicide charges who are roaming the country, and another 4,250 non-citizens who have pending sexual assault charges who are roaming the country on the non-detained docket. So people's eyes might be glazing over right now with all the numbers we just threw at you. Just to put it in a nutshell right here, what we've learned from the acting ICE director via this letter to Congressman Tony Gonzalez is right now there are over 13,000 illegal aliens convicted of homicide who are roaming the United States right now. There are another 15,811 illegal aliens roaming the country right now who have been convicted of sexual assault, and there are even more who are facing charges for homicide and charges for sexual assault. So this just goes to show, guys, the non-detained docket has exploded under the Biden administration to over, I believe it's 7.3 million. They're anticipating it could hit 8 million by the end of the year. But looking at the numbers on this letter right here, there are...
But it's men. I mean, I think the...
Wow. So those aren't good stats. I mean, that's not what you want to hear. 13,099 murderers convicted, with others going through the process of being convicted. 15,811 rapists. 425,431 convicted criminals, spanning another, wide array of criminal activity. And again, this is just what we know. Ones that were not detained and let go, like, whatever. So you murdered some people, you're part of a cartel or whatever. Where do you want to go? San Diego? You want to go to Memphis? Cool. You just let us know. We'll pay for you to get there. But this is, think about this. If we're all, I know that we live in this hyper political, hyper partisan world, which is dumb. At least don't be hyper partisan because there's only one party. But if we had an honest conversation, knowing that any of this stuff was going to overflow into a community, you'd be upset if we knew that there was 12 murderers let go into the country, going to Lord knows where, TBD locations. Right? People would be upset. Like, you can't just let someone go free. What if they land in my community? What if they hurt me or my family or my friends, my colleagues? You'd be upset. You'd say we have to do better. But this is you add those three categories up that Bill was talking about there. That's over 454,000 known criminals, many of which violent criminals. And again, that's just what we're being told. And there's still people are like, no, there is no there's no buts on this. There's no excuses. You close the damn border. You follow the laws. We have CBP officials and ICE and other DHS members and DEA and all these folks who are just trying to do their job they signed up for, and they're being told not to. We've got a border that has not ever been perfect, and it probably never will be perfect, but it's never been this imperfect. That's for damn sure. It's just not okay. And look, there's more nefarious stuff going on. We talk about it all the time in terms of votes, in terms of disrupting how our culture and community looks as a country with the lower and middle class. There's so many evil, nefarious things that are being done with reshaping the population the way that they're doing it. But before you even get to that part of the conversation, it should be a non-starter. It should be, no, we're not doing that because of all of what we just talked about here. It's just so bananas that we're just letting this happen. There's reports and conversations, you've maybe heard some of them too, about the Taliban and other extremists who are already here wanting to do October 7th like attacks, which whether it's the Taliban or AQ or ISIS or a combination or some group you've never heard of, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is we continue to just let everything open. Come one, come all. If you guys are bad, we'll tell you where to get weapons and stuff later. Don't worry. You just want to be a farmer. You just whatever. We'll take you here. All of this is fixable. All of it is fixable. And we've put ourselves in a situation now where like in a totally different context, you had Chimney Rock and you had Asheville, who just got flat knocked on their ass this week. Didn't see it coming. Not the kind of cataclysmic change that has come. And the same thing's going to happen to communities across the country because of these failed border policies. It's going to come. There's going to be a day where something like October 7th does happen. I hope and pray it doesn't. I don't want it to, clearly. But there's going to be a day, and likely days plural, where that kind of stuff happens. And people are going to be like, well, how did that happen? And those are the same people who were saying and are still saying to this day, well, with the kind thing to do is to let people in and pay for them, even though we have all of our own problems and people who need help and support. But let's give it to these people who aren't Americans and are technically breaking the law. The whole thing, you feel like you're in an upside down world, and I'm so sick of it.
And I would like to know what the voters who were for Biden and Kamala, who, if you guys saw, Kamala talked over the weekend. I was texting you guys. One thing she had talked about, because she went to the border. She was there for 13 minutes, by the way.
Yeah.
And then she left the border then to go talk about the border. But she was there for a photo op. Wasn't allowed. No one could ask questions while she was there. She said to go and look at it and see what was going on. And then she gives a speech. She talks about how we have a border crisis. We need to fix the problem. This is what we need to do. We need to figure this out because we have an issue. All right, so what about the voters who voted for them because they were like, no, we need an open border. But now she's talking about, if you vote me president, we're going to fix the problem here at the border.
They'll think whatever she tells them to think because that is who they are. They're just, what does daddy government say?
I was getting so mad when she was talking. I was like, I'm turning it off. I can't take it because she's just spewing lies. She even says like Donald Trump has never cared about the border. Oh, you mean the one that he built the wall on? That one? Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is all part of the government's demoralization campaign that they're waging. And part of that demoralization campaign is you sow chaos within society. And that's exactly what they're doing. Before, with our immigration system being broken, we had Mexicans coming across the border who were seasonal workers. They would work on these farms, harvesting tomatoes, lettuce, whatever it is, and then returning to Mexico. And it was a seasonal thing. Now, as you said in that report by Bill Malhusian, that countries are emptying out prisons. So it's not just seasonal workers that we're getting. We're getting rapists from Ouagadougou coming across, being flown on our taxpayer money, and also through other NGOs. And it pains me to say this, but Catholic Charities, being a sort of a Catholic, it really makes me mad to see that happening. We're getting these folks coming over who are never, ever going to leave. And so now we've got, as that report alluded to or stated, that there are 13,000 murderers. So Trump was right. He said they're unloading their prisons. They're sending them all here. Crime's going down in these countries. And this goes back even to 2015 when he came down the golden escalator saying that there are murders and rapists coming into the country. And I'm sure that there's some good people as well, but he was 100% correct. And of course, you've got the spineless twinks on the left going, oh, they're cultural enrichers. We need them. We're all immigrants. We're a country of immigrants. We need to let them in. That's why guys, this is another example of why guys are rejecting the Democrat Party because of shit like this.
Yeah. No, absolutely right. It just makes zero sense. And always say there are good people trying to come here. Good people have tried to come here since we started because we're a badass country who has lots of flaws and more flaws now than we've ever had before, it seems. But people want to come here for a lot of reasons. But you can't just assume that all people are good and all have good intentions. How does that work in real life? It doesn't. Same thing should be the case with this. It's just I don't get. I understand what the politicians and policymakers are doing. I still just don't get and never have got how people on the left don't see all the points of failure and flaws in this plan. They don't see how this could bite them until it does, and then it doesn't matter because it's already been accomplished. It's so frustrating. I hope that this report is widespread. This is a report that Team Trump needs to make a campaign ad about and put out there. Like, those numbers should be burned in people's skulls. 13,000 plus murders, 15,000 rapists, 425,000 plus other convicted criminals. That does scare people, but people usually a little concerned about what's happening next, what's lurking around the corner. And I'm not talking about the physical corner, although always be mindful going around corners. Yeah. I'm just saying what comes next here, because we've set ourselves up for catastrophe. And I don't see how they can't see that. I get it. You don't like Trump. Fine. But as always, take the names out. Look at policies. Does this wide open one where 454,000 documented, illegal, undocumented immigrants came over as documented criminals? No, it makes no sense. No one in their right mind is like, yeah, that sounds good, whatever. It's the dumbest thing ever.
Well, we're being set up. We're being set up by the federal government for a false flag. It might not even be a false flag. We're opening the door to let something happen. So part of the demoralization campaign, when chaos erupts, people will be so demoralized and want protection from the federal government that they will give over their freedom. That's what this is all building to. And it's just, I can't tell people enough that this is what's happening. They want to federalize the police. We already know that. And so they need to come up with some giant incident that's going to cause people to say, okay, enough is enough. We've had enough. Same thing with the Patriot Act after September 11th. That shit just popped out of nowhere. It'd been sitting, in somebody's drawer for the longest time. And all of a sudden, okay, we got people scared shitless now. So let's go ahead and pass this. Yeah. This is going to be the same thing as September 11th and the Patriot Act when it happens. And like you're saying, I hope it doesn't happen, but the writing's on the wall that it is going to happen, and it's all to sow chaos within the United States. The powers that be, the administrative state of the country wants us at each other's necks. And what better way to do it than have some kind of civil unrest between Americans and our cultural enrichers that have arrived.
Cultural enrichers. Yeah. Well, it's sadly not a matter of if, it's a matter of when something happens, and that's not to be all doom and gloom. It's just practical. Yeah, you throw this many things in, you create this many more opportunities for something to go wrong. There has to be that expectation. It's going to, as much as I hate that. Let's finish on something a little bit more lighthearted. unless you had a rough weekend for your team in the NFL. But let's just touch on a couple games in the NFL. Then we're going to get out of here for today because I've got a football game to go to myself. Kind of weird on a Monday, but
Monday Night Football. Yeah.
But it's Monday night JV football. So Vikings beat the Packers. David was Disco was alluding to that earlier. 28-0 at halftime. We're up. Vikings have beaten really good teams, come out looking really sharp all year. Still finished the game, still got the win 31-29. Sammy D still looking outstanding. 20 of 28, 375 yards, 3 touchdowns, did have a pick, but looked great. But man, first half so stress-free. And then the second half, like, what the hell is going on? Let the Packers back in, and credit to them. Jordan Love kind of got a little bit in a better groove. He made some mistakes. I think they rushed him back from his injury for this game. But that was an intense one. And I'm glad that we walked out with the win 4-0, leading the NFC North. But speaking of the North, the Bears got themselves a win over the Rams, 24-18. Congrats to Disco.
And congrats to the defense.
Yeah, congrats to the defense. Yeah. Although, so the offense still sucks, but Caleb is improving. He was 17 of 23, 157 yards and a touchdown. So somewhat efficient, not great, but also, didn't turn the ball over, didn't throw any picks, which was good.
Well, and like over the previous weeks, you saw anytime the receivers were running, doing their job, he was overthrowing. He would miss the target. If you watched the game from yesterday, they'd run 5-10 yards, turn around, stop, and he'd nail it. He'd get it. So we were getting completions. It was great.
Oh, they're getting in sync. I mean,
it's going to take time, but it's like you're sitting there going, oh, they're making it work. Well, yeah, but let's put them on the run and see. Let's have them run a route and not have them stop mid-route to catch the ball.
Well, that's all by design. I mean, but they're getting more in sync. I mean, they're not going to be an offensive stalwart this year. There's no two ways about it. But they do have some talented. He's got some talented receivers to throw the ball to. I mean, his offense is pretty stacked. So it's just a matter of getting more comfortable. He does paint his nails though, which
yes,
again,
he does.
Have to bring up. Chiefs hung on to beat Harbaugh and the Chargers 17-10. Good AFC West rivalry game. Tight game. Chargers played without a lot of people. Joe Alt, Bosa was out. I can't think. There's a couple more that were out. So he was pretty short-staffed, and they still hung in there. That's a good football team. They're 2-2 now, but that's a good football team in the Chargers. And of course, the Chiefs we know are very talented. Then the Ravens just looked solid last night. Derrick Henry just was in beast mode. Derrick Henry, not like a breakaway runner. He's just a shove your face into the ground kind of runner. But he pops that 87-yarder, and then he just never slowed down. The dude just never slowed down. The Ravens looked outstanding. That's against a really good Bills football team. They won 35-10 last night. I was hoping it was going to be a closer game just because I wanted a closer game. But man, the Ravens definitely looked solid.
Do you think it's a little bit too premature to start talking about Derrick Henry in the top 10 running backs of all time?
I'm telling you that he is a beast. He's going to be up there, whether it's top 10 or close. He's going to be up there. I remember, I've said this before. I remember I took a break from deploying at one point, and I ended up deploying even as I was doing this, which is a whole different story. But I was coaching football here locally. And I took some of our kids down to a Nike Combine in Orlando, some of our upperclassmen. And Derrick Henry was a senior at Yulee, which is just north of Jacksonville here. And he was down there. And I'm telling you guys, I played college football at a high level. I got hurt and my career went nowhere. That's not the point. I'm not patting myself in the back. My point is I've been around studs. And this dude in high school looked like a dude who could start for the University of Michigan. He just was a beat. His freaking quads and his body. When you just see it, it's like, holy crap! Like you're different. Like I had just gotten done, with the first stretch of my counterterrorism career. Doing cool guy shit, and I'm looking at Derrick Henry like, damn, dude. Can I take you to coffee? He's just as a beast. He's just a beast. And he got even better as he went to Alabama and then, had a hell of a run in Tennessee. And now you put him in an offense with Lamar Jackson and all the tools they've got. Like, jeez. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know if he's up there but he's certainly in contention to be up there. I love him. And I love hard runners like that who are just like stiff arming mofos.
You like collisions, don't you?
I do. But I appreciate the backs who are not like that. I like the shifty ones too. Like I love Barry Sanders. You know, Barry's not going to run you over. He's going to make you fall out of your pants. But I like them all. But I love having a back like that in the mix who just is he's not a short yardage back per se, because he can do it all. Again, he ran for that one. The one play was 87 yards last night, and he's got speed. He's huge. But he's a ground and pound dude.
Yeah, it's funny to me. Every so often, a player, a musician, whatever, comes along, and when you watch them perform, it's like you find that you realize that you're watching something special that won't come around. It'll be a while before the next one comes around, be it a Tiger Woods, a Michael Jordan, a Tom Brady, or a Caitlin Clark. I feel like he's one of those players.
I do too. No, he's good. Well, and here's the thing. He's 30 years old and still looking really good. 30 years old for running backs is old. 30 years old for a quarterback is young. It depends on your position group. But running backs, the wear and tear, especially being someone who's not like this elusive dude who's not touched as much. I mean, he's always just in the shit. And to be 30 and playing like he is, I agree. He's special. He's a special dude.
I remember growing up going to Chicago to see family, and my cousin played just in a high school basketball, like for the schools, and he played against Dwayne Wade. I watched him as a high schooler playing and going, this kid, he should be like, he's incredible. And he's a high schooler, like running circles. And then he finally gets into the NBA. I remember going, that name sounds familiar. And I called my cousin. He's like, yeah. He goes, that's the kid that always beat our asses. And I was like, oh, he's like, yeah. And it's just incredible to see.
Yeah.
When you see them when they're young and you can see it then, they're going to do great when they get to the pros.
As long as they can keep their head on straight. Yeah. Absolutely.
For Dwayne, it was his knees.
Yeah. But he had a great run. He had a great run. All right, folks, it's been fun. Happy Monday to you all. Thanks so much for spending time with us. Again, we hope you had a great weekend. Please hit that like button if you have not already. For those who have, we appreciate you. For those who haven't, come on, give it to us. Please hit that button. It goes a long way. It really does. I know it sounds vain, but please do that. We will be here the rest of the week, barring a catastrophe. We're hoping to be back on the set tomorrow, but we will keep you posted. I guess you'll see when the countdown clock starts tomorrow at 3, but we'll be back tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern. Have a great night. Be safe. Be smart. Be free.